Hello travelers, I'm Wheelchair Jimmy and I'm rolling through Akaroa, New Zealand today, where our Princess cruise ship is docked for the day. Akaroa is located on the Banks Peninsula, which is on the east side of the South Island, and it's really the alternative port for the cruise ships while Christchurch is being rebuilt subsequent to those devastating earthquakes of 2010 and 2011. Upon anchoring in the bay, the Princess then transports the passengers who wish to go ashore via a small tender craft. Now, as a side note, these tenders are good size and are very wheelchair accessible with the crew's help, so long as the waters are calm and the weather is good. Now, Akaroa is a very small, very cute French-cultured coastal village. Everything's very level, very wheelchair accessible. You can roll through town easily. They even have a wheelchair accessible public restroom. But frankly, there's not a whole lot to do in Akaroa, although they do have these small, cute shops and restaurants. So you might want to consider some alternatives. There are these small scenic boat excursions into the harbor and a little bit farther out, or you can take the bus to Christchurch, which is what we did. Not all the buses in Akaroa are accessible, but there is the wheelchair-accessible red bus with a fold-down ramp which will work for most, I think, normal width manual wheelchairs. It's also much cheaper to buy the bus ticket right there in Akaroa than buying in advance or through Princess. Now, it's about an hour and 20 minutes, very scenic ride over to Christchurch, and the bus will drop you off right in front of the Canterbury Museum, where you'll board another red bus for what's called the Christchurch Rebuild Bus Tour. Now, this offers just a unique guided experience around what was, what is, and what the future holds for the post-earthquake central city of Christchurch. Now, the earthquakes of 2010 and 2011, they just devastated Christchurch with 185 people killed and 80%, really 80% of all buildings were lost, including hotels, restaurants, and retail. As a travel advisory, if you're a wheelchair traveler, after the earthquakes, I'd be mindful about booking any long-term relaxing vacations at Christchurch. It's going to take them years to rebuild, and right now it's just not wheelchair accessible. You know, it seems like we spent half a day going over to Christchurch and back, and we did, but boy, it was a fantastic, eye-opening experience to see the devastation that can be wrought by earthquakes, and yet the hope and optimism of the citizens as they rebuild, which they're doing in a big, big way. Now, if you get to Christchurch, you may want to visit the Canterbury Museum, which was built in really Gothic revival architectural style that was opened in 1870. It's very nicely done, informative, free, and very wheelchair accessible. There is wheelchair accessible parking, restrooms, and a cafe. Now, the Canterbury Museum gets a 4 on the W-JAR index. Located adjacent to the Canterbury Museum are the Botanical Gardens, also established around 1870. Now, you should be sure to see the Rose Garden, which for much of the year displays more than 250 different roses, which makes this a colorful and a fragrant place. Now, these beautiful botanical gardens are on a very level area and are very wheelchair accessible. You'll also find an accessible restroom right next door in the Canterbury Museum. On the W-JAR index, well, the Christchurch bus journey, it gets a 3. And both of these buses were reasonably wheelchair accessible. Not the most accessible buses I've been on, but I think they'll work for most manual wheelchairs. You know, and I'm not used to being cooped up on a bus for half a day, but I'm going to tell you, this was a fantastic, eye-opening experience that was well worth the effort. You know, and when we get back to Akaroa, we still had plenty of time to mosey through this very cute French coastal town. Roll on, America!